Independent MP Zarah Sultana, who lost the Labour whip last year after voting for an amendment that would remove the two-child benefit cap, announced that she will form a new progressive party alongside former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. Now, I'm very interested briefly in both of your opinions about whether you think this is good for progressive politics in this country because it will drag the conversation further towards conversations like wealth tax, or whether you think it's bad because it further splinters the progressive vote and helps open the door for Reform and Nigel Farage. I'm interested as quickly as possible what you both feel.
Yeah, I mean, essentially the latter version of what you just said there is where I am. I don't like seeing us split. Like, I don't like seeing us fighting amongst ourselves when, frankly, the fight should be whether or not people can get beds for their kids, whether we can go make sure that kids have food on their plate and that people can get a bus to work. Those should be the conversations we should be having. And the more that we split and talk amongst ourselves about the ideas that we separately have, which, frankly, aren't always that different, I think the more it weakens us and the more it's easier for the far right and the right to take over that conversation.
But isn't that an important message for the Labour leadership as well, who seem to have spent a huge amount of rhetorical and political energy attacking its own natural support base? And aren't they going down a very dangerous road that the Democrats went down, spending an election campaign essentially attacking young progressive voters who form the core of their vote? That's a plague on both your houses,
well, look,
right?
It's personally, it's why I like being a mayor, not being in Parliament, right? Because I feel in Parliament it's this sort of slightly poisonous system where these small differences get magnified, where there are personalities at play that then actually get in the way of the real politics of like changing this country. As mayors, we don't really do that so much, right? We are responsive to our communities, what people place over politics. There are huge differences within the mayor's group, but we all get on and work together because that's the right thing for our places. I think there is a more mature politics that we could all adopt, quite honestly, and I think mayors are leading the way.
Your thoughts, Gary? Based on what you said about the Labour Party, I sense you have an opinion on this.
People might not believe this, but I don't consider myself to be a political person. When I was a kid, I had no interest in politics. I just wanted to make money. I wanted to be rich. And then I got this job where my job was to analyse economies, and I realised that economies were going to absolutely collapse to absolute shit forever. And that politicised me, right? Yeah. And I think it's important to recognise...
He wasn't wrong.
Yeah. It's important to recognise that is what is happening here now, and that this will get worse, and that this is a serious situation. So what I would like to say is politics is not football, okay?
Yeah.
It's more important than that, right? You know, we talk about kids going to bed in drawers. You know, that will get worse, unfortunately. That will get worse. So listen, I'm willing to work with whoever is going to help me fix that problem. Yeah. You know, and I don't care if that's Jeremy Corbyn. I don't care if that's, you know, I don't care if it's...
But not Nigel Farage, though. We have to draw a line there.
Look... I will work with who I have to work with to stop this country from collapsing into poverty. You know, I don't think Nigel Farage, who is funded by billionaires and is trying to cut billionaire taxes, will help me do that. Yeah. But I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to stop this country from collapsing into poverty. Yeah, look, we have a stupid political system which really punishes division. Division can be difficult. But I understand why these guys are doing it, because I was there before the election screaming at Labour, are you going to give us something on inequality? And they said no, and they said no, and they said no.
But it's so hard, isn't it? Because, you know... I remember, this is not quite the same, but I remember starting a magazine and poring over every single article and having this moment where we chatted to the editors, and we just basically, someone said, look, when you start out, you have to have the highest standards because you know they will get dropped. Start high because you'll get pushed. And so, in a way, when we say let's all unite behind a banner, isn't there a sense that you're saying to people, drop your standards? And in the end, don't we all pay for that? I'm not saying that's my opinion, but I understand why we split.
When I say politics is not football, that's exactly what I mean. Don't unite behind the banner. Don't unite behind the banner. Don't paint colours over your face and say, I'm this team. Fight for your interests. Fight for your interests. What I talk about is tax wealth, not work, reduce inequality. You fight for your interests.
I guess what I'm getting at is that, look, we're talking about splitting the left here, and I'm someone who's very nervous about splitting the left, but I also look at what Reform's doing and the influence they've had over the Tories, and I wonder, maybe if we had a split on the left, we could also do some of that to Labour. Because if you're a bit on the left in Labour, you're just literally just told to piss off, aren't you?
But if you use it to pressure, it's fine. You use it to pressure, and I know Labour are hated, and I know Keir is hated. Listen, don't allow who you like and who you don't like to damage your interest as a group. Unfortunately, listen, I'm sorry, but this is a serious things that are happening here. And sometimes you do have to work with people you don't like, and I don't like it either. But listen, serious things are happening. We need to form alliances where we can, and we need to protect ourselves.
All I would say is, I've been a politician 3 years, right? I've been in politics kind of all my life, one way, shape or form, like delivering leaflets, whatever it might be, right? But I guess being a politician for 3 years has taught me quite quickly, you know what, politics is like, it's just incredibly messy And it's like incredibly difficult, and you don't get to just say that these are my principles and I'm just going to hold on to them and I'm going to expect everybody else to mold themselves around me. Mm-hmm. I have to work with people I don't like. I have to work with people I don't agree with. I have to do things that I don't necessarily think are in the greater interests of this country, but they might be better for South Yorkshire, or vice versa, right? There are things that I have to do that I don't necessarily like or enjoy, but politics is messy and you've got to try and get to where you want to go. And sooner or later that means actually you've got to make a bit of compromise happen. And ultimately, I think in this country, we've lost the art to a certain extent of compromise, of being able to talk to each other and find a way through where we can all collectively stay as one community and move forward. And I think that's where we need to get back to.